The morning sun caught the glass walls of Elite Motors, making the luxury cars inside sparkle like jewels. Zara took a deep breath as she pulled into the parking lot. This was a big day for her. After 10 years of building her tech company from nothing, she was finally going to buy her dream car. She checked her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her natural curls were neatly tied back, and she wore minimal makeup. Zara had chosen comfortable clothes that morning: dark blue jeans, white sneakers, and a simple navy blouse. She wasn't dressed to impress anyone, she was just being herself on her day off. "Today's the day," she whispered, feeling butterflies in her stomach. The car she wanted cost more than most people's homes, but she had earned this. From sleeping on her cousin's couch while coding her first app to now employing over 50 people, Zara had come a long way. The automatic doors slid open with a soft whoosh. Inside, the showroom gleamed with polished floors and spotless vehicles. The smell of new leather and expensive cologne filled the air. Salespeople in crisp suits chatted with customers, their laughter bouncing off the high ceilings. Zara walked toward a stunning silver sports car, her eyes taking in every curve and detail. She had researched this model for months and knew its specs by heart. As she approached, a nearby salesman glanced her way, then quickly turned back to arranging brochures. "Excuse me," Zara said with a friendly smile. "I'd love some information about this model." The salesman barely looked up. "Someone will be with you shortly," he said, before walking away to greet an older white couple who had just entered. Zara stood alone for nearly 15 minutes, watching as 3 different sales associates helped other customers. She moved to another car, running her fingers along its perfect paint job. Again, she tried to catch someone's eye. Finally, a man with a manager's badge approached. He didn't smile. "Can I help you?" he asked, his eyes scanning her casual outfit. "Yes, I'm interested in this model here," Zara said, excitement in her voice. "I'd love to test drive it today if possible. I'm ready to make a purchase." The manager's eyebrows rose slightly. He looked at her again, more slowly this time. "This vehicle starts at $175,000, he said, emphasizing each syllable. "The monthly payments alone would be quite substantial." Zara nodded. "I'm aware of the price. I've been planning this purchase for some time." The manager smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Perhaps you might be more comfortable at our sister dealership across town. They have some excellent, more affordable options that would be better suited to your budget." Heat rushed to Zara's cheeks. "My budget isn't the issue. I'd like to test drive this car, please." The manager checked his watch with an exaggerated motion. "I'm afraid we're preparing to close for a staff meeting soon. Perhaps you could come back another time." He gestured toward the exit. Zara glanced at the large clock on the wall. It was 1:30 p.m. on a Saturday. The dealership sign clearly showed they were open until 8. "I see," she said quietly. Her throat felt tight, but she refused to show it. As the manager escorted her toward the doors, she noticed him nodding at the security guard. Zara walked out with her head high, though her hands trembled slightly. In the parking lot, she slid into her practical hybrid car and pulled out her phone. She took another deep breath, collecting herself before making the call. The number she dialed was saved simply as Honey. Zara pulled into the long driveway of her home, a beautiful but understated house tucked away on the outskirts of the city. Unlike the massive mansions their friends owned, Zara and her husband had chosen something more reasonable, still luxurious but not flashy. The garden was Zara's pride, filled with native plants that needed little water. She sat in the car for a moment, replaying the dealership scene in her mind. The way the manager had looked at her still stung. After building a tech company worth millions, after all her hard work, she was still judged by her appearance. The front door opened before she reached it. Ray stood there, tall and concerned, his kind eyes searching her face. "You're back early," he said, taking her bag. "No new car." Zara shook her head, walking past him into their open-concept living room. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, lighting up the simple but expensive furniture. She kicked off her sneakers and sank into the couch. "What happened?" Ray asked, sitting beside her. Zara told him everything: the waiting, the ignored greetings, the manager's condescending tone, and finally, the humiliating escort to the door. "He basically threw me out, Ray," she said, her voice catching. "Like I was wasting their time." like I couldn't possibly afford those cars. Ray's jaw tightened. Few people knew that Raymond Wilson was one of the richest men in the country. His renewable energy technology had revolutionized the industry, but he kept a deliberately low profile. No flashy interviews, no social media presence. His employees knew him as a fair boss who remembered their children's names. The business world knew him as a brilliant innovator. But to the general public, he was practically invisible. "Which dealership?" he asked quietly. "Alette Motors on West Park Drive," Zara said. "But honestly, I don't even want their cars anymore." Ray got up and paced slowly, his hands in his pockets. "You know, my grandfather couldn't even enter stores through the front door," he said. "He told me stories about having to go around back, about being followed by security in shops. I promised myself things would be different for our kids someday." Zara watched him, recognizing the thoughtful look on his face. "I know that look," she said. "What are you thinking?" Ray came back to sit beside her, taking her hands in his. His wedding ring caught the light, a simple band that matched hers. "What do you want to happen here, Ziddy? Do you want to forget it, file a complaint, or something else?" Zara thought for a moment. "I don't want revenge," she said finally. "But I'm tired of people like that manager thinking they can treat people this way. I just wanted basic respect." Ray nodded. "Respect," he repeated. "That's fair." He pulled out his phone and walked to the window, making a call. Zara could only hear bits of his side of the conversation. "Richard? It's Ray. Yes? Good to hear you too. Listen, I need a favor. Tomorrow morning. Yes, the special edition we discussed last month." After a few more calls, Ray returned to the couch. The determined look on his face had softened into a smile. "What did you do?" Zara asked, knowing her husband well enough to be both curious and slightly nervous. "Nothing bad," Ray assured her, pulling her close. "Just arranging a little lesson in respect for tomorrow. Trust me." Zara laid her head on his shoulder. "Always." "Good," Ray said, kissing the top of her head. "Because tomorrow we're going car shopping. Together." The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows as Zara made coffee. She wore her pajamas, hair wrapped in a colorful scarf, trying to shake off the bad feelings from yesterday. Ray already sat at the breakfast island, phone to his ear, speaking in that quiet, firm voice he used for business. "Yes, I understand it's unusual," he was saying, "but this is important to me personally. I need your best team there by noon." He paused, listening. "Thank you, I appreciate it." Zara placed a mug of coffee in front of him. "Who was that?" "Legal team," Ray said, putting his phone down. "They're going to meet us at the dealership." "Legal team." Zara's eyes widened. "Ray, what exactly are you planning?" Ray took a sip of coffee before answering. Nothing scary, just covering all bases. His phone buzzed again. He checked the screen and smiled. Perfect timing. "Richard from Royce just confirmed. The car will be delivered to the dealership parking lot at 11:45. Zara nearly choked on her coffee. "A Rolls-Royce? At Elite Motors?" "Ray, that's a bit much, don't you think?" Ray reached across the table for her hand. His fingers were warm against hers. "Not just any Rolls-Royce. That special edition Phantom we saw in London last year. The one you said looked like driving art." Zara remembered the car, midnight blue with stars embedded in the ceiling. She joked about buying it someday when they were properly rich, not knowing Ray had already made inquiries. "You bought it? Without telling me?" Ray looked slightly embarrassed. "I was saving it for your birthday next month. Had it shipped over weeks ago. Richard's been keeping it in their private showroom." Zara wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. "So your plan is, what? To show up with a $500,000 car to make them feel bad?" "Not exactly," Ray said, pulling a folder from his bag. He opened it, revealing printouts of reviews and complaints. Devin from research found these online. Elite Motors has a pattern of treating certain customers differently. Mostly women, mostly people of color. Zara flipped through the pages. "This is a lot of complaints. They've managed to keep it quiet. Settled a few cases privately." Ray took another document from the folder. "But what's interesting is who owns the dealership, Wilson Automotive Group. The CEO is Tom Wilson. Your old college roommate?" Zara asked, surprised. Ray nodded. "We lost touch years ago. I doubt he even remembers me. I was just the scholarship kid he shared a dorm with before I dropped out to start my first company, but I remembered him well enough. He wouldn't want this kind of behavior in his business. Zara thought for a moment. So what exactly is the plan? Ray outlined it step by step. Zara would return to the dealership dressed exactly as she had been yesterday. The same casual clothes, same natural hair. She would ask for the same manager. Meanwhile, Ray would arrive in the Rolls-Royce with his legal team and the regional director of Rolls-Royce. We won't embarrass them publicly, Ray explained. But they'll understand exactly who they dismissed yesterday, and Tom will learn what's happening at his dealership. And the legal team? Zara asked. Insurance, Ray said simply, in case they try to dismiss this too. But I don't think they will. Zara considered the plan. It wasn't about revenge or making a scene. It was about respect and accountability. Okay, she said finally, but I have one condition. Name it, Ray said. If we do this, we're not just making a point for me. We use this to create real change for everyone they've mistreated. Ray smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling the way she loved. That, he said, is exactly why I married you. Part 4. The Return. Exactly at noon, Zara pulled into the Elite Motors parking lot. Her heart thumped against her ribs as she parked in the same spot as yesterday. She wore the identical outfit, navy blouse, dark jeans, white sneakers. Her hair was styled the same way too. She wanted the manager to recognize her instantly. The showroom looked busier today. Well-dressed customers wandered between gleaming vehicles while salespeople hovered nearby, ready to answer questions. Zara took a deep breath and pushed open the glass doors. This time, heads turned as she entered. A young salesman started walking toward her, but stopped when the manager from yesterday appeared, his face shifting from professional smile to slight frown as he recognized her. You've returned, he said, not quite hiding his annoyance. As I mentioned yesterday, perhaps our sister location. I'd like to see that silver model again, Zara interrupted politely but firmly. The manager sighed. Ma'am, as I explained. A commotion outside caught everyone's attention. Through the giant glass windows, they could see 3 vehicles pulling into the front area where only display models usually parked. First came a sleek black Bentley. Behind it rolled a bright red McLaren that probably cost more than most people's houses. But it was the third vehicle that caused actual gasps, a midnight blue Rolls-Royce Phantom, gleaming in the midday sun like something from another world. The entire dealership fell silent. Customers and salespeople alike drifted toward the windows to watch as drivers in crisp suits exited the Bentley and McLaren. From the Rolls-Royce stepped 2 men, one carrying a leather briefcase, and the other tall and commanding in a perfectly tailored dark blue suit. Is that? A salesman whispered. Ray Wilson, another confirmed in awe. The clean energy guy. The manager looked confused. Who? A senior salesman leaned close to him. Raymond Wilson, Forbes list, one of the richest men in the country, the quiet billionaire. The color drained from the manager's face as the group from outside entered the showroom. Ray scanned the room, his eyes finding Zara immediately. He walked straight to her, ignoring everyone else, and took her hand gently. Sorry I'm late, honey, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The manager stared at them, his mouth slightly open. 2 more people entered. A woman in a sharp suit carrying a folder with the Rolls-Royce logo and a distinguished-looking man who introduced himself as Thomas Chen, Regional Director, Rolls-Royce Motor Cars. Mr. Wilson, Chen said, the vehicle you purchased for Mrs. Wilson has been delivered as requested. The paperwork is ready whenever you'd like to finalize the delivery. The manager's eyes darted between Zara and Ray, realization dawning on his face. You're together, he managed. Married 8 years next month, Ray said pleasantly. He turned to Zara. Did you get a chance to look at the car you wanted yesterday? Actually, Zara said, I was just explaining to this gentleman that I'd like to see it again. The manager's face had turned an unhealthy shade of red. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. Of course, we'd be delighted to show you any vehicle. That won't be necessary now, Ray cut in smoothly. My wife has already made her choice. He gestured toward the Rolls-Royce outside. A small crowd had gathered around them. The manager looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. Perhaps we could speak somewhere private, the man with the briefcase suggested. He handed the manager a business card that read Samuel Park, Chief Legal Counsel, Wilson Enterprises. The manager nodded weakly. My office is this way. As he led them toward the back, whispers rippled through the showroom. Zara caught snippets. Turned her away, didn't know who she was. The Wilson fortune. Ray squeezed her hand as they walked. You okay? He whispered. Zara nodded, keeping her head high. This wasn't about embarrassing anyone. It was about something much more important. The manager's office was small and plain compared to the flashy showroom. He hurriedly cleared some papers from his desk, knocking over a coffee mug in the process. A dark stain spread across some documents as he fumbled for tissues. Please have a seat, he said, his voice higher than before. Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Wilson, I cannot express how. Actually, Zara interrupted gently, I kept my last name. It's Dr. Thomas. I earned my PhD before we met. The manager's face fell further. Dr. Thomas. Of course. I deeply apologize for the misunderstanding yesterday, had I known. That's exactly the problem, Ray said, his tone calm but firm. The way my wife was treated shouldn't depend on who she's married to or what her bank account looks like. Samuel Park, the lawyer, placed his briefcase on the desk and clicked it open. We've taken the liberty of reviewing some public records concerning Elite Motors, he said, removing a folder. There appears to be a pattern of similar misunderstandings. The manager's eyes darted nervously between them. I'm not sure what you mean. 17 complaints in the past year, Park continued, sliding forward a document. Predominantly from women and people of color who reported being treated dismissively or asked to visit other dealerships. The office door opened suddenly, and an older man with silver hair burst in. I just heard Ray Wilson is in the building. He stopped short when he saw the group. Ray, is that you? Ray stood, surprise crossing his face. Tom Wilson, it's been a long time. 20 years at least, Tom exclaimed, shaking Ray's hand vigorously. Not since you dropped out to start that first company of yours. He turned to Zara with a warm smile. And you must be his wife. I've read about your tech firm in Business Weekly. Incredible innovation in educational software. The manager looked completely lost. Sir, you know Mr. Wilson? We were roommates at Stanford, Tom said. Though back then, this guy was sleeping on a futon and living on ramen. He clapped Ray on the shoulder before his expression grew serious. Now, what's this about complaints at my dealership? For the next 10 minutes, Park outlined what they had discovered. Tom's face darkened as he listened. When they finished, he turned to the manager. Is this true, Peter? The manager, Peter, seemed to shrink in his chair. Sir, we have certain protocols for determining serious buyers. Based on what? Tom interrupted sharply. How they dressed. The color of their skin. No, sir, of course not, Peter protested weakly. Dr. Thomas, Tom said, turning to Zara, I am deeply sorry for how you were treated. This is not what Elite Motors stands for. Zara nodded, appreciating his directness. Thank you. Thomas Chen from Rolls-Royce, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. Mr. Wilson, the delivery paperwork requires your signature. The Phantom Tempest collection is one of only 20 produced worldwide. Mrs. Wilson, forgive me. Dr. Thomas will be its proud owner. Actually, Zara said thoughtfully, I think I've changed my mind about what car I want. Ray looked at her with raised eyebrows. You have? Yes. She turned to Tom. If you're serious about making changes here, I'd like to buy that silver model I was looking at yesterday, from this dealership. Tom looked surprised, then pleased. It would be an honor. And I assure you, there will be significant changes made here. We're counting on it, Ray said. As they stood to leave the office, Peter the manager cleared his throat. Dr. Thomas, if I could say something. When Zara nodded, he continued, I made assumptions about you based on how you looked. I was wrong and disrespectful. I'm truly sorry. Zara studied his face, seeing genuine regret there. We all make mistakes, Peter. What matters is what we learn from them. As they walked back to the showroom floor, Ray whispered, So, no Rolls-Royce? Zara smiled. It's beautiful, but a bit much for grocery shopping, don't you think? Besides, she added, squeezing his hand, I think we can do more good with that money. Ray nodded, understanding immediately. The foundation. Exactly, Zara said. I have some ideas we should discuss. The next week passed in a whirlwind. Zara's silver sports car was delivered to their home with a handwritten note from Tom Wilson himself. But the car was just the beginning. 3 days after their visit to Elite Motors, Zara and Ray sat in their living room with Samuel Park, their lawyer, reviewing documents spread across the coffee table. Tom's been incredibly cooperative, Samuel said, shuffling through papers. He's asked for our help to completely overhaul the dealership's policies. Ray nodded, looking pleased. I always knew he was a good guy, just out of touch with what was happening in his own business. He fired Peter, Samuel added. Zara looked up, surprised. Really? I didn't want that. He didn't fire him for what happened with you, Samuel clarified. When Tom started digging, he found Peter had been giving better deals to certain customers while overcharging others. There was a clear pattern. Zara shook her head sadly. That's worse than I thought. Ray picked up one of the documents. So what exactly is Tom proposing? Samuel laid out the plan. First, mandatory training for all staff on unconscious bias and inclusive customer service. Second, a mystery shopper program using people from different backgrounds to ensure everyone received equal treatment. Third, a complete revision of sales practices to ensure transparent pricing for all customers. But here's the part he added after meeting with you, Samuel said, handing Zara a folder. He wants to start an apprenticeship program for young people from underserved communities. Training in sales, marketing, automotive technology, business management, with guaranteed job placement at his dealerships. Zara flipped through the proposal, her excitement growing. This is exactly what we talked about. He's asking if the Wilson Foundation would consider being a partner, Samuel said. Providing mentors, technological support, that sort of thing. Ray looked at Zara. What do you think? I think it's perfect, she said without hesitation. This could change lives. The following month, they met Tom at Elite Motors again. The showroom looked different already. New signs detailed the transparent pricing policy. Brochures for the apprenticeship program sat on elegant display stands, and the staff was noticeably more diverse. Tom greeted them warmly. The changes are just beginning, he said as he led them on a tour. We've implemented everything we discussed, plus more. He showed them a sleek new customer lounge with a plaque dedicating it to respectful service for all. The salespeople they passed all greeted them professionally, but Zara noticed they treated other customers, all types of customers, with the same respect. And this, Tom said proudly, opening a door to what had once been a storage area, will be our training center. Classes start next month with 20 students from local high schools. The room was being transformed with desks, computers, and automotive displays. A sign on the wall read, Wilson Thomas Automotive Academy. Zara turned to Tom in surprise. Wilson Thomas? If that's okay, Tom said. Ray was my friend when I was nobody special. And you, Dr. Thomas, gave us the wake-up call we needed. It seemed fitting. Later, as they drove home in Zara's new car, Ray glanced over at his wife. You're smiling. I'm thinking about those 20 kids, she said. About how this whole thing started with someone thinking I didn't belong in a fancy car dealership. And now, because of that, 20 young people who might never have had the chance will get training, mentorship jobs. Ray reached over and squeezed her hand. All because you stood your ground with dignity. And because you had my back, she added. Always, Ray promised. But you know what I'm most proud of? What? That when you had every right to be angry, to demand an apology and walk away, you chose to create something positive instead. He smiled at her. That's why I love you. You don't just talk about change, you make it happen. Zara looked out at the road ahead, thinking about journeys of all kinds. Sometimes, she said softly, the worst moments lead to the best opportunities. 6 months flew by like a dream. On a sunny Saturday morning, Zara adjusted her blazer as she prepared to give a speech. She stood backstage at Elite Motors, which had been transformed for today's special event. The showroom floor had been cleared of cars and filled with rows of chairs, now occupied by proud families, community leaders, and the media. Nervous? Ray asked, appearing beside her with 2 cups of coffee. He'd handed her one. A little, she admitted, taking a grateful sip. Public speaking isn't really my thing. Could have fooled me, Ray smiled. After your presentation to the city council last month, the mayor called me personally to say how impressed she was. Zara watched through the curtain as Tom Wilson welcomed everyone to the first graduation ceremony of the Wilson Thomas Automotive Academy. 20 young people sat in the front row, dressed in smart new suits and dresses, excitement visible on their faces. "I still can't believe how far this has come," she whispered. What had started as a simple training program had blossomed into something much bigger. After seeing the potential, Zara had thrown herself into the project, bringing her tech expertise to develop a state-of-the-art curriculum that combined automotive knowledge with business skills and digital literacy. Tom's voice grew louder as he approached the introduction. "And now, I'd like to welcome the woman whose vision made today possible, Dr. Zara Thomas." The applause washed over her as she walked onto the stage. She saw the graduates beaming at her. 11 young women and 9 young men from neighborhoods across the city, all of whom had overcome significant obstacles to be here today. 6 months ago, Zara began. "I walked into this dealership and was judged based on how I looked rather than who I was." She paused, letting that sink in. "It wasn't the first time something like that had happened to me, and I know it won't be the last time it happens to someone in our community." She looked at the graduates. "But what makes today special isn't what went wrong 6 months ago. It's what went right afterward. It's the courage of people like Tom Wilson to acknowledge a problem and commit to fixing it. It's the dedication of our graduates who showed up early and stayed late, who mastered complex skills and supported each other through challenges." As she continued her speech, Zara noticed a familiar face in the back of the room, Peter, the former manager who had escorted her out all those months ago. He looked different, humbler somehow, in a simple suit rather than his flashy dealership attire. Tom had mentioned that after being fired, Peter had gone through counseling and had sincerely asked to attend today's ceremony. After the speeches came the ceremony itself. Each graduate walked across the stage to receive their certificate and job offer. The crowd cheered for each one, but the loudest applause came from the graduates themselves, celebrating each other's success. Later, at the reception, families mingled with dealership staff and community leaders. The local news interviewed graduates about their future plans. Several other business owners approached Tom about expanding the program to their industries. "Dr. Thomas," a hesitant voice said behind Zara. She turned to find Peter standing there, looking uncomfortable but determined. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said quietly. "What you and Mr. Wilson created here, it's changing lives, including mine." He explained that watching the program develop had forced him to confront his own biases. He'd found a job at a nonprofit that worked with ex-offenders returning to the workforce. "I teach them how to present themselves professionally, how not to be judged by their past." Zara felt a wave of emotion she hadn't expected. That's really good to hear, Peter." As the event wound down, Zara and Ray walked to their car. The midnight blue Rolls-Royce gleamed in the parking lot where Ray had left it, though they rarely used it. Ray had insisted on keeping it as a reminder of that day. "So," he said as they drove away, 3 more dealerships want to start academies of their own." "I know," Zara smiled. "Tom told me. And the community college is interested in making it an official certification program." "What you've built here is remarkable," Ray said. "And to think it all started because someone underestimated you." Zara looked out at the city passing by, thinking of the 20 graduates who would start their new jobs on Monday. "Sometimes being underestimated is a gift," she said thoughtfully. "It shows you exactly what needs to change in the world." Ray took her hand. "And sometimes it takes someone special to turn an insult into an opportunity." As they drove home, Zara thought about paths not taken. If she'd been welcomed at the dealership that first day, she would have simply bought a car. Instead, something much more valuable had been created, opportunity for those who needed it most. Sometimes, she reflected, the worst moments truly could lead to the best outcomes if you had the courage to transform them.